like to call the meeting to order. Acknowledge all board members are present with the exception of Helen Hudson, excused. So we will start with the acceptance of the May 24th, 2018 minutes. I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay, Joe.
Yes, good morning.
Morning.
I'm pleased to announce that we had a successful bond closing on June 20th. So the balance of the funds for our current projects have been secured. And going forward, next month, we may need a special meeting to approve several contracts because of the timing of the bidding. They've been successfully bid, but they're submitting their paperwork, and we'd rather not wait to the regular scheduled meeting of July 26th. If the board would entertain a special meeting, maybe the second week of July. I will notice you, of course.
Sure. Yeah.
That schedule. And finally, there was new correspondence from Mr. Giardine. It came in this morning, so I included it within your packet.
Okay. Thank you. Is that all?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Thanks, Joe. All right. Next up, we have a report from the program manager. There's Chris. Morning.
Morning. How is everybody?
Great.
Can you hear me okay? Good?
Everybody hear us okay in the back? Yeah?
Perfect. You guys have the report in front of you, and there's copies of it on the back table. Just a couple highlights to run through that a little bit. Under project financing, I just wanted to let everyone know that we're, as Joe mentioned, we finished the second bond closing there, and now we're analyzing how we borrow the balance for tranche 2. So that's kind of being looked at from a couple different lenses, because we got to figure out when we borrow in concert with when we bid and when we plan to award. And as we said at the previous meeting, we're studying that a little bit to see how we stagger those 3 high schools, because we don't want to flood the market with too much work at once. So it's a combined effort there of looking at the timing and sequence for borrowing in concert with timing and sequence for procurement of bids on the street. So a couple lenses to look through there. So we're doing that. The approval process, I just wanted to touch base on the fact that we're going at the end of this month, waiting on a confirmed date, but probably the last 2 weeks of July, we're going to go to SED for the approval of the first 3 tranche 2 buildings, which would be Clary, Elms, and Danforth. And so that's that process is being approved tonight by the school board, the city school board. We're there in front of them this evening to present those 3 projects and provide the details related to those, so they approve them. And then at the end of the month, we go to SED for that. And then following that SED initial face-to-face review, within about 6 weeks, they'll approve those 3 projects. And then the balance of the tranche 2 projects will follow over throughout, probably through August into September and October. So that's the plan for that. Under public communications, just that we've completed all of our public meetings at each one of the schools to present the scope of work and where we're going. The training program, I wanted to just touch on the fact that we did complete that second round of the training program. We had 18 folks graduate from that, and that Tim Penix and EOC will be here next month to provide a full report on how that went and where people went and how they're doing with placement. So we mentioned one there. The budget under tranche 2, I'm in the schedule update box, the lower left. Speaking to where we are with the tranche 2 schools, we're going through a budget reconciliation process right now, trying to get all of the tranche 2 buildings trued up in terms of scope to budget. So that's a process that's still continuing, and will continue here throughout the third quarter to get those to where we need them to be. In the center, under the constraints portion of the piece, the first one I wanted to speak to is we got a couple things going here with tranche 2. The school board passed a resolution to go to the legislative limit of the $300 million. I wanted to have a little discussion this morning on that they've done that and passed the resolution. Then that would have to be then mirrored here with the JSCB, and we anticipate that for the next meeting of next month, which would be go from the 291 to the 291.5 to the full 300 million. So, and there's going to be some dialogue there in terms of where does that 8.5 get applied. I don't know that we have that sounded out completely yet, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think we need to kind of study that a little bit and figure out. Obviously, we'd be limited in terms of where we would have the capacity with MCA, so where it would be applied would be subject to that. So more discussion to follow. I just wanted to kind of bring that up, that the school board has already taken that action, and that'll be coming to you guys for the next month. In concert with that, we need to go back to OSC, Office of State Comptroller, for approval, because there'll be a revision to the financial plan in terms of that increased amount. So that's something we need to keep eyes on and be mindful of resubmission and approval. The previous process that took quite some time to get that through OSC just seemed to be a time-consuming endeavor. We're hoping that will be better and more efficient this time, but I think we need to keep our eyes on the fact that by the first quarter of 19, which is where I want to start bidding tranche 2 projects, that we have that approval in place. So just, again, something to be mindful of as we're moving forward, another hurdle. Did want to just touch a little bit on also the reallocation is another reallocation of some tranche 1 funds. As I've stated in our previous meetings, the bidding market's been tough for us. We've had to stretch a little bit to get awards in place, and I said we'd be coming back to do some reallocations, and we'll be doing that next month. Again, we briefed the school board on that on Monday evening, and then they'll have a meeting on the 11th for action on that. But what we'd like to do is transfer the $3 million from Shea and apply that to 3 tranche 1 buildings: Bellevue, Ed Smith, and Blodgett, because the construction contingencies there were pretty light in terms of what we think we're going to need to complete the job. So we'd like to use that $3 million and apply it at each of those. We have the capacity there in terms of MCA, and then if we don't need it, we'll obviously reallocate again as we move down the line. And this process is going to be something that evolves as we move forward, as we start to realize costs on projects, and we start to true up those, the actual construction costs. We're going to continue to reallocate and as needed, to where we need it to go. So I know that was a lot there. So questions on that?
Remind me what happens to Shea then?
At the moment, nothing. We're not making any formal action to delete that project or to not do anything there.
Okay.
There's still about $1 million remaining in that budget. The architects have been placed on hold for that, so we're really doing nothing with it at the moment, nothing formal. And there's nothing to say that we can't revisit that as we go down the line. So we kind of preserved our options there.
That's an action item, that's something we have to vote on.
Next month, yes.
So when will we see the specifics? Specifics that I'm looking for, they have X amount allocated. So I'm assuming that's
We-
$3 million, or was it a boiler?
Initially, it was a much greater number, but remember, we've done one transfer officially so far where we pulled some money out of Shea and applied it to Fowler and to Ed Smith, and it left us about $4 million in there, 4.1, I believe, and now we're going to allocate $3 million of that. So,
I want to see a specific.
yes,
Because I don't remember.
no, we could, Calvin, we have that, and we could certainly, Joe, we could circulate that.
Sure.
It's a simple one page that shows what we did previously and what we'd like to do now, and you could have that in advance of the meeting to understand that.
And then the source of the uses, so we're saying $3 million, that's the source of the cash, the use will be for these particular schools, but what's
Correct.
specifically for those particular schools?
It's to restore the construction contingency. So when we made our award for several of those buildings, our target was to have about an 8% construction contingency intact for those buildings. We skinnied that a little bit to make the award, knowing that we needed to come back and restore that contingency. And again, that's not contract cost, that's just anticipation of changes. And I want us to be in a position that if we have a change that comes up, we have the ability to move it forward and not have to then react to that change and have that change wait on coming back for approvals. During design, probably higher, closer to 10. When we go to construction, we like to be at 7 or 8%. Sure. Yep. No, I want you to too. The two things I just wanted to touch on. We are the upper right. I've put some progress photos in here, not a lot. I know they're kind of small, but just wanted to give you a flavor that work is happening out there. Bellevue, Fraser, and Ed Smith are in full motion, and we're moving forward. I wanted to speak for 1 second to Fraser. We had a little bit of a hiccup there. We have to, as part of that process, we had to get SHPO's approval of the project, which we had initially, but they had the part 2 where they wanted to actually see the window shop drawings. So when the window shop drawings came back, they were pressing us to put what they call a mutton or a divider on the inside, the middle, and the outside of the window. And we were we went back and forth on that. So that process, eventually they agreed to just putting a divider in the middle of the window and on the outside. And unfortunately, that process delayed us a little bit getting their approval ultimately for that. So we're going to have to resequence a bit at Fraser in terms of our initial plan was to complete all the windows there this summer. Given the lead time of the windows and where we are at the time of the year, we're going to have to look to probably extend that a bit. So just making folks aware of that. So. Sure, happy to. Fowler, we've engaged in a redesign of the site work, so that the roof, as you know, is here today for approval. But the site work, we've re-engaged with a new geotechnical engineer, and we're reviewing some options to mitigate cost through that redesign. We anticipate that redesign is probably going to take us the better part of 3 months. There's some additional testing that this engineer has requested, so we want to get that in place and then talk about how we can modify that design. The intent with it overall is to try and stay out of the ground more than we were before. Before we were excavating into the ground and using, and then bringing it back up with the use of structural foam and whatnot. And what we're trying to do now is see if there's an opportunity for us to just preload the site, which we had talked about a long time ago. Yeah, the ability to go in there and preload, compact the site a little bit, and then preload the site. The downside of that is, as it always has been, is time, and it's what steered us away from that initially. But then, after realizing the cost of what it was going to be to do the other method, we've kind of returned to that. So it's in process. The testing is going to happen here within the next 60 days in terms of this additional testing and lab work that we want to do. And then we're hoping we'll be in a position potentially by the fall or the first quarter to put that back out to bid.
That's falling within the amount we budgeted then with this new firm, the amount that we had budgeted. It appears that they may be able to do this work within that allocated budget.
That's the objective, is to come up with an alternative design that will help us mitigate some of the cost over there and get us. In terms of the what we're doing, or
how is it? So if it is going to be compacted as opposed to remediated, I don't.
We'll keep you. At standing here right now, Kevin, I don't have that means and method defined standing here, but we're going to keep you attuned to it. What we're doing right now, the redesign, it's incumbent upon the AE firm to kind of redesign that to get it back within budget. So that's what they're doing. It's just going to take a little bit of time to do so. The downside is if we vet the downside to if this design will work and he has confidence in the fact that it'll work, the downside is that preload piece is going to take us up to a year to let that stone sit there, which is the unfortunate part. But if it brings it back within budget and puts it where we want it to be dollars and cents wise, it'll be worth it.
We're still 3 months out from even determining if the preload design is feasible.
The geotech engineer that we're working with has indicated that he feels that that's reasonable, that this is a reasonable approach that will work. But to proof that out, he wants to have some more representative samples of the peat that's there and do some additional testing to get his comfort level, to where he'd like it to be, which I would expect. It's like, switching doctors. That doctor will take some of that information, but they want to validate it on their own terms. Yeah. So
I'm just thinking, obviously, the sooner we load it,
yes,
the sooner we'll be done.
That's what we're trying to get to as well. So the testing, like I said, the testing is going to take us about 60 days, and we're put that in motion here, and to get those lab results back and move it forward. But the hope was, and the other thing is, we may likely break that into 2 phases. A phase which says we have to relocate that CSO line that's there, relocate that line, compact the site, and preload the site as a package, and then come back for the package that will actually do the track and the turf and the fields, that sort of thing.
Forgive me, but what? Did we already relocate that CSO line, or did we put it in some?
The issue we have with the city line is it runs through the field, and so discussion early on said, do we really want to have a manhole in the middle of the field? I mean, even though you could bury it and you wouldn't know it was there,
right,
and you'd have it there, but do you really want that? Because if you ever had to access that, so the idea was to reroute that around.
Okay.
So.
The prior contractor
We did. No, we did. We considered, not necessarily the compaction, but their basic design concept was take off more than what you're going to put on. And by a net zero, basically, in terms of loading. That was theirs. We did talk about this, the preload with them, but we navigated away from that because of the time involved.
I have a question on Fraser.
Sure.
You had said it would extend the time. How long will it extend the time for the windows?
The time for the window lead time is going to be the same. That doesn't change. The challenge is now if we don't have windows until October, how far can we get in the fall versus waiting till the following spring when the weather changes? But we're working on that. We want to see if there isn't an opportunity to remove and replace kind of like at a classroom at a time. If we could do that, is what we're looking for. I don't want to give up on it yet because, you know, and then by extending it, obviously it extends the general contractor's contract, which, you know, we'd have to then look at what the implications are of that. So. If we could swing a room out, you know what I mean, for 2 days and pull those windows out and put them back in, it's something that I know that the construction management firm that's over there is studying that to see how we could accomplish that. So
will you know that soon enough that we can plan for teachers having to be moved to a different?
Yeah, in advance of September, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's something we're looking at now. So we're trying to it was a wrinkle that, you know, like I said, we had the initial SHPO approval, but they kind of put a little caveat on their approval that they wanted to see the shop drawings when the shop drawings were actually produced, but we can't produce those until we have a contractor on. And then it got into them, and we asked them to hurry up, but
and I know we all have
happen.
We have to pick our battles, but just always keep in mind that you can reach out to my office, you can reach out to the superintendent's office to help try to move things along.
Okay, appreciate that. We'll do that. So we covered the redesign on that. No, I pretty much that was what I wanted to cover. We got through that. So any other questions? Good?
I think we're good. Thanks, Chris.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next, we have our financial update. Kate.
Good morning. So I'll be going through the highlights of the monthly financial statements for the month ended April 2018. And just to give you a high-level description of the activity for the month, it was approved vendor payments for Phase 2, the federal JSCB subsidy, which was an in and out into the JSCB and then dispersed out to the school district, and interest earnings on bond proceeds. So those were the three primary areas of activity for the month. So turning to page 5, the statement of net position summary. At the end of April, the JSCB fund has a total of $99 million of Phase 1 and 2 cash. And compared to the March statements, cash has decreased by $642,000, which is comprised of $747,000 in vendor payments going out, plus $105,000 in interest income coming in. So at the end of April, the unaudited total net position is $48.7 million. Turning to page 6, which is the statement of sources and expenditures. Year-to-date sources through April of $79.8 million reflects $73 million in bond proceeds, $3.6 million in capitalized interest that is held for debt service payments, as well as the pass-through New York State funding from the district of $2.1 million, and that's for debt service, and then the 105 increase of earnings on investments, which brings it to a total of $123,000. A federal JSCB subsidy payment was received, and that was for $357,000, bringing the total to $714,000 for the year. And as I mentioned, that subsidy was dispersed out to the school district during the month, and so it resulted in a net cash impact of 0. On the expenditure side, year-to-date expenditures through April total $8.9 million, and that reflects an increase over last month due to those Phase 2 vendor payments approved by the JSCB. Turning to page 7, which is the cash flow statement. We've got actual figures provided through April and then projections for the months of May and June. And the sources and disbursements for April as updated reflect what was reported last month, so no major significant variations to report there. As Mr. Berry mentioned, the Tranche 1B borrowing closed on June 20th, and so the projected sources and disbursements are reflected in the June column of the cash flow statement. And the actual figures for those will be updated on the June financial statement once we get that bank statement back from the trustee and we can verify all the final numbers. So right now the cash flow statement projects that the JSCB will end the fiscal year with $127 million in cash, and that's primarily in the form of bond proceeds for the first 7 Phase 2 projects. And finally, turning to page 8, which is the revenue and expense inception to date report. We've got incidental and construction costs paid by the JSCB to date for all Phase 1 and Phase 2 projects from inception to date. And just want to note that this report does only reflect those invoices that are paid by the JSCB as of the end of April, which is the period of the monthly financial reports. And that concludes my summary. If there's any questions.
Auditors are preparing to come in school district year.
Yes. Yes, we are. They will. They'll be coming in August to do some preliminary disbursement testing, and then they'll be back in October to do the final field work and issue the statements. You're welcome.
So Kate, a little birdie, told me this is your last JSCB meeting.
It is, yes.
Tell everybody where you're headed.
I'm going to the East Syracuse Manoa Central School District to be the Executive Director of School Business Administration there. But it's been an honor to serve and work for so many years with the JSCB, and I look forward to seeing all your continued success.
Congrats. Thanks for everything, Kate. You've been great.
Thank you so much.
Good luck. Okay.
Did Jaime try to match the offer? I'm just asking.
Exceeded that.
Okay. All right. So next up, we have our compliance manager report.
Morning. So in front of you should have 2 copies of the compliance report. We have one that Joe submitted, and then we have a handout because we have a few extra slides that we like to show that has some personal information on it, and we wanted to make sure that didn't get out. If you guys want it to be public, we can always do that, but just so you know, we have 2 of them. So the first slide is our normal slide that shows all of the professional services and sub-consultants through April. This does not include construction numbers yet. Collectively, we have a 14.21% on the minority, 31.13% on the women. Residency, we're not there yet. We're trying to get to 20%, but we hope to see that during construction, but we're close. And the students, we're at 9%. Everything is exceeded except the residency right now, but with the workforce projections that we've seen from the construction utilization plans, we think we'll be in good shape. So every time we come in, we talk about the numbers, but we felt like because we have a new mayor and new board members, we'd like to show you how we get there. It'd just be this one time, but we'd like to show you some of the software. So we use a software called B2G Now, which is a compliance management system used by many of the municipalities, billions of dollars in contracts in it, and that's for the that's for the business utilization. And we also use LCP Tracker, which the city also uses for the workforce. Both of these programs, the contractors and the primes log in to enter the information. So Landon and Ryan doesn't put in any numbers. It's supplied to us through these systems, and also we get monthly pay applications that we verify. So they put it in, we verify it, and we make sure they match. If not, we go back and forth until they do. This is a snapshot. I was hoping it was a little clearer, but this is our snapshot of one of the screens of our contractor list. This is the B2G Now Diversity Monitoring System. Currently, we have 27 contracts in the system. All the data entered, again, is from the approved utilization plans. As an example, we kind of wanted to highlight one of the primes. As you can see, and my LASIK isn't working. You can see that it talks collectively, the 12 and the 8 that they're responsible for. This page also allows at the top tab, it allows a lot, but we're trying to, for the sake of time, the documents, so then we can allow the primes to upload invoices and corresponding payment information, checks, debits, whatever to supply to us that you actually paid the firms this amount. So that's uploaded in here also.
What's the for credit percent next to the goal?
That's the M&WB percentage. I'll show you that on the next page. The 36.9?
Yeah.
Yep, I'll show you that on the next slide.
Okay. That's what they're actually at.
Right, no, that's the 30, that's for the M&WB, that's the 22.42, and the 14, that's the M and WB firms. And at the top, again, it shows their contract value and their percentage, and then this is where we get the 36.9%. It shows the 1 MBE sub and the 3 WBE subs. Right below that, it shows the prime contractor, again, their total contract. What's interesting about this page, you'll see certified firms, so they're not counted towards the goal, and it has a no there for not included in the goal. But below that is their subcontractors, so you'll see CME and the other firms, and right below that, it will tell us if they're sub, or on the next slide, you'll see if they're 50%, it will do the math for us. And then it will also tell us if they're included in the goal, whether a WBE or this is a snapshot of the Phase 2 project audit summary page. Again, there's a lot of pages, a lot of places where we can pull audits from, but this lists all of the prime contractors, and again, whether they're certified, whether they're included in a goal, and these award amounts, and then when these change, revised utilization plans come in, we compare this to what comes in and we change it if necessary. The next is a snapshot of a particular construction contract for Ed Smith. Right at the top, I think that's to 2 firms, 2 suppliers, and they're counted at 50% automatically, and then the one at the bottom, I think they're showing at 100% because they're an actual firm. So B2G now allows designation of multiple tiered subcontractors, also the ability to designate the percentage counted toward the goal. So no more spreadsheets. So this is a snapshot of our LCP tracker monitoring system. This is where we house the workforce. So we have the minority, the women, the residents, it's all in this system. And it shows the contractor, who they're sub to, when they enter the information, and also they can withdraw, or they can copy or view their certified payrolls right from the system. So currently we have 185 firms, contractors currently being monitored and verified for the workforce hours, and more to come as construction progresses. So this form was customized for the JSCB. This is the Form E that firms are currently utilizing in handwriting. This was created, and this is just going to save time, and this just shows all of the minority, women, students, residents, all on one page. This is a summary of the workforce, so everything that's entered, if we ever wanted to pull a report, or Lamont wanted to pull a report, everything is on one, and it breaks it down. You can't see the top, but right at the top is all of the things we track. Section in yellow, I believe, is the person holding the contract, the subcontractor or the prime. And again, I could email this to you. It looks really good on a smaller screen, but I can always send this to you. So that's how we get here. So all of that comes into play. We get the pay applications, we verify it, The subs and also in the B2G system, the primes enter the amount they were paid, ABC Corp. The subs has to verify that. If they don't verify it, we get a red flag. We find out why they haven't verified it. And then we go from there. They get an alert, we get an alert. So every month that goes by, no one doesn't get paid. If so, we know about it. So this is our normal presentation. And as you can see, we're at 22.85% on the MBE. 1,717,000 so far, utilization to date. For the WBE, we're at 11%, 11.22, which is again over the goal. We are seeing a lot of construction utilization plans come in with some really impressive numbers. So hopefully the next time we present, we'll have that information for you, but I also have some preliminary information on the next last slide. So these are the hours. Right now we have this is just for tranche 1. I'm going to go to the second one that shows the totals in red for both tranche 1 and tranche 2 collectively. We're at 14%, 14.21 on the minority, 31 on the women, and again 18 on the residents, and 9 on the students. So last time I reported there was some misunderstanding about the numbers, so we wanted to start again. So this is the approved construction utilization numbers for 6 schools. This is what we're going to put together. These are just what we've approved, what Lamont and the city. A lot of this hasn't started yet, but right now we're at $77 million in GC contract value. $9 million of that is MBE participation, and 11 of it is WBE. So we're going into construction already exceeding the goal. Of course, that's if everyone does what they say they're going to do, but this is where we're at to date. Non-professional services. So we'll have a separate slide and start reporting this numbers next period. So MWB construction contracts awarded is about 120 individual contracts with 40 different MWB firms participating on the project. And I think, Lamont, is it 143 firms that are certified? 170? So out of that, 40 of them got contracts on the project so far. So 59 MWB firms have expressed interest. We got this number from pre-bid meetings, people that showed up or expressed interest in the project. 28% are actually working on the project, and 41 have expressed interest. So out of the MWB firms who attended the pre-bid meetings and received contracts is about 17. Who didn't attend a pre-bid meeting and received a contract is 21. And who attended a pre-bid meeting and expressed interest but did not receive a contract is 22. So what we try to do is when a utilization plan comes in, if you're not on the contract, we track that, we find out why, we try to get the two parties talking, and that has been successful because we have the good faith effort. So if we don't see participation, we'll offer a suggestion on who they can contact. A lot of times the firms will stop at left an email or sent an email, left a voice message. That's not good enough. We try to put them in communication until we get a solid no. So professional services, again, this is a snapshot of what we just talked about on the first page. And again, residents and student numbers will increase with more trainees and are employed. We do know that one of the GCs right now is actually going over and beyond what he needs for the 1 person per school. He's looking to get 4, although they won't count. He's looking to bring on more City of Syracuse residents, so that's going to help our number also. Yes? Well, we have Turner ourselves. We have all of the architects. We got participation from the testing firms. So that's for the professional services. we'll have more of the data when construction starts on the breakdown on how that number was met. But I mean, we could get that information too. You mean as far as what their positions were?
So, yeah, I'm curious.
And I think we have a breakdown. I think, Joe, we spoke about the breakdown of the legal services and things. We can revise that and then go through our data and give you all of the everybody that's on there and what they do, and then compile that with the breakdown that we submitted before.
Yes.
You want us to put that together for you?
I mean, yeah, so again, phase one. Diversity, but the diversity was people cleaning up sites and paving. Again, I don't want to focus just on the diverse number to the construction work. There's another $38 million in construction service going on. Long time, and it's just in my mind to the first. So I wouldn't want that number to be focused. I look at that number, and you build this 38 million, you build this 10 million. When we keep all at 33%, it was all in.
I understand. Well, we can break that down. We can go through everything. We have the data and let you know what all of those professional services do and give you numbers for that. And then we also have the breakdown I think we got from Chris not too long ago of some of those figures, and we can compile that and put it together in one sheet for you. Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
Other questions? This is very helpful.
We have several resolutions today. Like, I can start with resolution number 36.
Great.
Which would be the monthly payment to Landon and Ryan.
I'll make the most.
Please. Good. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 37 would be the monthly payment to the program manager, Turner Construction.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 38 would be the monthly payments to the various contractors working under the Tranche 1 financing.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 39 would be various payments to the contractors working under the Tranche 2 financing.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 40 is the award of a GC contract to Pack and Associates of Oswego to be the prime contractor on the Huntington Elementary School project.
Further discussion?
I just looking into the diversity number, Lloyd, these folks were one that had zero. Is there a plan, or have they articulated a plan to get up to the WDD? Sorry about that.
That has zero.
I thought I just read something about it.
For what? Testing? Oh, yeah, that was just for the WBE testing. I think it was just for the M because the M. That's right. We went through the whole process. We exhausted everything from Al. That was the only one that's received a waiver because of insurance issues and partnering with Churchill. Right. Yeah. So that's the only one that was at 0. Well, we actually started 2 weeks ago, our site visits, and when I didn't hear you, I was texting our WBE because we're meeting them at Huntington at 11. So we go to the sites, we go into the job trailer, we request. Oh yeah, and we also work with Q's Culture, and they're doing some of the schools because at a certain point we're gonna have the overlap. So we interview everyone, and we have a list that if we interview you, so we don't bother you again, we verify that, and businesses also. So we bring that back and verify that against the utilization plan. If we don't see you, we'll call and find out, because the dates change. So you may be on site, you say you're gonna be on site, but you're not for whatever reason, so we'll just verify that.
Good. Thanks, Cal.
So we've had motions, but we need to vote on 40.
Questions, comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 41 would award the roofing contract at Fowler to Diamond Roofing Company.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 42 would declare the JSCB lead agency for the Tranche 2 schools, which are listed. This is in order to comply with the State Environmental Quality Review Act procedures as we proceed with the financing of the Tranche 2 schools.
Second.
Joe, do you do all the seeker work in-house?
We received some advice from Barclay Damon because the IDA as bond counsel needs to ensure that it's done to their specifications.
Okay.
So we coordinate with Barclay Damon.
Great.
Mayor, I appreciate the resolution. Is that really necessary? Because we have the JSCB legislation that says this is the.
Good question, but the State Environmental Quality Review Act requires each governing body to undertake this procedure. At the moment, they decide to go ahead with funding a project. So it's based on as we go out with each bond issuance. So although we're lead agency per the state legislation for the overall schools reconstruction project, I think of this as kind of a subset of focusing specifically on the environmental aspects of the project.
Belt and suspenders.
Yeah, right, yeah.
This is a state law, but the SCD takes it very seriously when the designs are submitted for their review. They want to see proof that we've complied with seeker, and likewise, bond counsel wants to see proof when we go out for the bond closing. So as we did with Tranche 1, we declare lead agency first, then we'll reach out to the other involved agencies like SCD to get their sign off, and then we'll come back to you maybe next month with the actual determination on each school, and whether in most cases it's what they call a negative declaration because it's reconstruction, not a major new environmentally sensitive matter.
Good. Okay. So we had a motion. We have a second. Any other questions? Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
I'd just like to clarify for the special meeting that I mentioned, I believe it'll be a couple of contracts for the Blodgett project.
Okay. Good.
We'll give you due notice of if we're going to proceed with that and see about your availability.
Any other business to come before the board? All right. Motion to adjourn. Favor? Aye. Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Yep. Yeah.